Welcome to another episode of On the Issues with Alon and Ben-Meir. Today's guest is Dr. Benafsha Yaqoobi, an attorney and civic society and human rights activist. Before the Taliban's return to power in 2021, she worked as an attorney for the elimination of violence against women and as a commissioner at the Afghanistan Independent Human Rights Commission. She currently serves as a prosecutor on the team bringing Afghanistan's case before the People's Tribunal for the Women of Afghanistan. In this episode, Alon and Benafsha discuss the plight of people with disabilities in Afghanistan, particularly women and girls, the work that the Rahyab Initiative does in support of people with disabilities in Afghanistan, the impact of the Taliban's takeover on Afghanistan, as well as its impact on receiving external support.
Good afternoon to you, Benafsha. How are you this afternoon? How are you feeling?
Thank you so much. And it's a warm day, summery day here in UK. I'm doing well. Thank you.
Yeah, great. I want to thank you again, for taking the time to speak with me on this podcast. It's live, and your story is unique in so many different ways, and of course, your own personal experience, especially in connection with women in Afghanistan with disabilities. I read as much as, a great deal of information about it, and it is nothing less than heart-wrenching, the story of what's going on in Afghanistan, specifically since the return of the Taliban back to power a few years back. So I want to before I do so, I'd like to introduce you briefly to our audience. So Dr. Benafsha Yaqoobi is a civic society and a human rights activist and currently serves as a prosecutor on the team bringing Afghanistan's case before the People's Tribunal for Women in Afghanistan in 2025. She's the founder and the director of the Rahyab Initiative in the UK. Dr. Yaqoobi holds PhD in political science from Lovely Professional University in India. In 2024, she was awarded the United States Department International Women of Courage Award, and in 2021, she was named among the BBC's 100 most influential women. Again, thank you, Benafsha, for joining me. And let me begin with asking a general question: can you just tell our audience about your personal experience? What did it bring you from Afghanistan to Britain?
So, as you're aware, after Afghanistan's condition, unfortunately, after 2021, when the Taliban took over the power, we all had to leave the country because there was no space and no opportunity for us to continue our work. And it was very dangerous for us as well. So me and lots of people like me, lots of human rights defender and the people who were worked and thought about human rights, women's rights, they all had to leave the country, and lots of civic society activists, they had to leave the country, and I was included that team.
Are you saying that the government, the Taliban, force you or ask you to leave deliberately, or you left voluntarily?
No, that was not asking, but this condition that they are the restriction and the condition that they brought for the country. So that was like the main reason for lots of us to leave the country. And then we left the country at just the beginning of Taliban when they took the power in August 2021, which we are getting closer to anniversary of that. 15th of August is the date. So we had to leave the country. And we evacuated by UK government.
But when you say you had to leave the country, why? Because of your advocacy, because of the position you have taken in connection.
It's good to not to go to that details. I don't want to put any other person in danger, because if I tell you the story, then I have to say about my colleague as well. Sorry.
Yeah. Your personal experience, however, based on what I've read, it's been extremely difficult. Can you tell us a little bit about it in terms of what you have gone through before you were able to leave Afghanistan?
So To be honest, that was kind of experience for all people of Afghanistan, because we all work to have a bright future for our country. And unfortunately, slowly, city by city, was somehow, I can say, given to the Taliban. And then in a night, then they took the power. So that was a nightmare for all civic societies, activists, and for all people who wanted education, or for all people who wanted to work for children, for women, for justice. So then after that, we understood that everything came to the end. And then even living there was not easy for us. So unfortunately, it was a nightmare. And as you are aware, immigration for all people is the biggest crisis in the life. So that is something that I think lots of people, they can understand them. It's imaginable. And for me as well, after leaving the country, was not easy. Leaving the country was not easy, and after that, it was not easy. But fortunately, we continued our work with the Rahyab, and I continued my study there back. And then after that, slowly, I got settled, and tried to think about people who are there and inside the country. And I said to myself, I know you're under stress and it's not easy for you, but if you sit calm and quiet, not to do anything, and saying that I'm very distressed, so those who are there, what can they say? It's good to just stand up on your feet and start your work. That kept me going and helped me to continue.
My understanding was you were arrested or jailed for a few days before
No.
That wasn't the case?
No, that wasn't the case.
And tell me about the plight generally speaking, about specifically women and girls with disabilities. And you mentioned that there are some more than 4 million with disabilities in Afghanistan. Can you tell me why the government, the Taliban, are discriminated? Usually, I mean, as a rule, they discriminate against women in general, women and girls. But in particular, you mentioned they discriminate against women with disabilities. Why is that?
So, based on the Asia Foundation report in 2019, published in 2020, 13.9 of whole population of Afghanistan, they have severe disability. But there is some other statistic from some other organizations, which was in previous years, and they say this is like 1.5 million. But when we count 13.9 people, there'll be more than 5 million. And from the Taliban ruler, and because lots of people, they can't say they are a government. For me, they are a de facto government. So to be honest, there's no expectation from that kind of extremist group to do justice and look at people in a justice way, and not to discriminate with people, with different category of people. Unfortunately, women and girls in general, they are suffering from very severe human rights violation in Afghanistan. And women and girls with disability, based on the intersective approach, they are suffering from multi-layered discrimination based on their gender and disability as well. And also those who are minority ethnic and minority in religion, they are suffering as well. And even I can say all people of Afghanistan, young generation, are suffering because there is no proper education, no proper health care. Our children, still in Afghanistan, you can see polio. People are getting disabled because of polio. And the main reason why there is lots of people with disability, that's years and years conflict. And the war was one of the main cause of disability in the country. And the other side, there is no good treatment for those who are women who are pregnant, so difficulty in pregnancy time, and then lots of problem for children cause them to get disabled. I don't have any answer for your question, which you said why Taliban doing that, because from an extremist group, since they have their own ideology and their own thinking way, this is their way to treat people. Nothing to say.
See, so obviously, I mean, the percentage of with disabilities in Afghanistan is extremely high, and as you mentioned, as a result of negligence because of the war, and in particular because the Taliban really did not necessarily care or pay enough attention to what is happening with the population, and specifically women and girls. So when you have your PhD from the university in India, How did you manage to go there? Have you done it before you left Afghanistan or after you left Afghanistan?
No, that PhD was started before leaving the country, and so I started before I leave the country, and I've done that PhD. But I finished it after leaving the country, but I've started before that. So, but I had to continue online because there was lots of restriction for people of Afghanistan regarding Indian visa. And then, so after that, in 2022, I've started another PhD program here in UK at London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and I passed my Viva just last week. So fortunately, I passed that. And the PhD from India, that was started in Afghanistan, yes, but PhD here, which was a research program, and it was regarding education and disability. I passed it just last week, just on 23rd of July.
Well, congratulations for that.
Thank you so much.
So
Thank you.
I wanted to tell our audience, about the organization Rahyab Initiative in the United Kingdom, because you were a pioneer of this organization. What is this? How was it established, and what was the purpose behind the establishment of this obviously very important organization?
So the Rahyab story is going a bit longer. If I want to tell you, Rahyab was alive while we were in Afghanistan. We had this Rahyab inside the country, and that was the Rahyab Organization for the Blind at that time, ORRSB. We established it in Afghanistan a long time ago, years and years ago, while I was a student. And just we established that organization, me and some other colleague of mine. So then we worked for people with disability regarding advocacy and raising awareness, and also education and rehabilitation for those who had visual impairment and multiple disability, including vision impairment and other disability as well. And then while we came here, so as I mentioned, I tried to continue work with Afghanistan and people with disability inside the country. And that I'm not going to say I helped them. To be honest, they helped me to go on and continue, because as you are aware, immigration and leaving a country, going to another country, starting life from the zero is not an easy thing to, it's difficult to tolerate. So they helped me to go on, and they helped me to keep going. And then the Rahyab Initiative aim is that still to work for different people, not just for Afghanistan, hopefully different parts of the world, specifically those countries who are vulnerable. And the main objective is human rights and working with women, specifically in rural and under far from service areas, because in Afghanistan, in another under conflict areas like Pakistan, Afghanistan, lots of that areas country, so lots of women and girls, while they are in a rural area far from biggest cities or main cities, they are suffering a lot, and their pain is more than women and girls who are at the city. So our aim is that, but nowadays we are working for people with disability.
So tell me so what is the scope, and who is funding this organization? How many people are involved? How many people you've been able to help? And these women and girls are in Afghanistan, obviously. So how many are involved? How many been affected, obviously positively? And who is funding this organization?
Regarding the funding, it's a bit, unfortunately, this year we do not have, very big fund for it, but last year we had a small grant from AWIU, Afghanistan Women of International Understanding. So we tried to provide a documentary regarding the situation of people with disability on the Taliban rulingship. And then we had some other projects as well, but this year we have a small project, which is some other supporters, people, friends who are supporting the project, and we are trying to run some computer classes, some raising awareness among people, and some support for women and girls inside the country, inside Afghanistan, not other places. But our aim and scope is a bit bigger. So to be honest, since I was busy with my own PhD as well, I couldn't focus a lot on the Rahyab. That is my fault. And then, so maybe because of that, this year we do not have very, big amount of money to say we are working a lot, but still we are continuing work in Afghanistan, and then there's more than 500 people with us, our participants.
So now you are more focused on Rahyab, or you're still obviously leading the organization. What is your position? What's your role at this point?
Yeah, I'm leading the organization, but there are people inside the country as well
My
for the
question,
Afghanistan program.
I see. I just would like you to quantify when the funding, because I'd like our audience to understand the scope. What when you speak about funding of the organization, what are you talking about in terms of euros? What we talking about? Is it in the hundreds of thousands? Is it in the thousands? Is it in the million? Let's suppose people would like to help you. What is the scope? What are the funding?
To be honest, in the Rahyab Initiative, since I myself am working voluntarily for the Rahyab, I never had any salary from the Rahyab, because Rahyab is like a kid for me, like my child. So I love it, and I wanna, as far as I'm alive, Rahyab would be alive. And my husband, my partner as well, he's working voluntarily, and our board members, they're working voluntarily. If I can say for the funding, um, it's fine because the friends, they are helping us. They're trying to help even from, you can say, $5, $10, 50, 100, go higher as much as they can, but it's not going to millions. So we started with small budget based on the Afghanistan condition as well. I'm not going to go to a very big project for now, because I'm trying to be transparent and work as much as the condition let me to do that. So because of that, the Rahyab Initiative is trying to be alive, work, cover the places that we can cover under these circumstances.
So, in your work, you appeal to the EU, to the UK, for financial support, I understand, as well as work as diligently as possible in terms of facilitating other women in Afghanistan to leave the country, specifically women with disabilities. To what extent you have succeeded in your plea to both the EU and the UK in particular to help you in these two areas, that is A, funding, and two, facilitating the immigration of women and girls who absolutely need help and they cannot get it in Afghanistan.
So in UK, there was programs generally regarding people of Afghanistan in 2021. There was two schemes that helped people to get evacuated from the country under that circumstances. But unfortunately, after that, not just UK, no other Western countries, they try to think about situation of people with disability. Specifically, we have previous army people with disability who were injured while there was war with the Taliban, and they are there in the country. Unfortunately, the previous security of Afghanistan soldiers, people who are so poor and so vulnerable, unfortunately, they are left behind. Also, lots of women and girls with disability who were women rights activists, human rights, civic society activists, journalists, all of them are left behind, and they're living in very, very bad and difficult and tough condition. So we tried, but unfortunately, the Western countries, no way. Even we had some advocacy with the UN. To be honest, they didn't will to. I'm not gonna say they can't or they couldn't. They didn't will to help in this condition.
Can you just give us an idea how many women you were able to help in terms of numbers? I mean, how many?
So in
Yeah.
Afghanistan, we have 500 participants who have disability nowadays. So more than 300 are women and girls.
And have you been successful in trying to get some of them to immigrate from
No, no.
Afghanistan?
No,
None of
no,
them?
we don't have this plan for the Rahyab, because these people, some of them are children, some of them are very young girls, teenagers. Some of them are women who are married and they are living there inside the country, but we try to support them from here uh, because some of them, they want to have access to online education. They want to get registered to some online universities, online schools. We try to provide them some school materials, some assistive teaching technology or something like that. So we didn't try because that was out of our capacity. For the evacuation, we tried to speak with specifically with the UN and other countries, Western countries, which was not so to be honest successful, because they said that it's not easy to bring out a person with disability with all problems and difficulties.
So, the government, the Taliban, of course, discriminate intensely against women in general. How is it when you say you're helping by 500? Is the Taliban allowing you to help these women, given the fact that they intensely discriminate against women in general? I mean, are they permitting you to provide that kind of help to these women who are still in Afghanistan?
So the things that we are doing is totally social, far from the politic. Because of that, Taliban doesn't have they don't have any issue with that, because we are trying to help people. We have like a pilot program going to, because our colleagues going to their homes. We are trying to do something house by house, and when we are trying to provide them assistive technology taking to their home, we are helping them with orientation and mobility, introducing them to some other organizations to receive some humanitarian assistance. We are trying to do from these ways, not to not to clash with the Taliban politic and their political things, because for now our aim is just to help women and girls who are in a very tough circumstances.
I see. Okay. I want to know, you mentioned, which is very interesting to me, is the White Cane Day celebration. What is this all about, the White Cane celebration? It's quite a different kind of concept and idea. Can you tell our audience what it is all about, and how did it come about?
Oh yeah, that was so interesting, because as you are aware, the International White Cane Day, which is on 15th of October, different countries, while they wanted to do some advocacy for people with disability, tried to use these days for advocacy and for raising awareness regarding people with disability. As you know, 3rd of December is the International Day of the People with Disabilities. Some countries, specifically who are under development, they have to use these occasions to say people, hey, there are lots of people who need help, who need support, who need to have their own life, who need you to think about them. And then in Afghanistan, we use these occasions to remind the government at that time there are people, millions of people who need support, who need help, who need education, who need healthcare. And then so using that occasions, we succeed to have lots of, good laws and policy regulars and benefit of people with disability. And then based on that law, we, for example, when it was 15th of October, for example, in March 2014, we went to different governmental ministries and we said, this is the rule, this is the law. Law said that you need to do this and that. And then they promised us that till next year we'll do this. And next year again, we knocked their door and said, what you did. That was our aim. So the Rahyab, at that time, the Rahyab organization, which was established in Afghanistan, for the first time took the White Cane Day to Afghanistan and used this occasion for advocacy regarding people with disabilities.
So what is the significance of the white cane? Why is it white? Why is it not red? Why is it white?
Because the white cane is something that people with vision impairment are using that for mobility and orientation. While we are walking, we have to use this white cane because for people to see us, and this is a sign for people who have vision impairment.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there are obviously another organization, United Nations, other. To what extent these international organizations are getting involved? Is there any pressure coming from the United Nations, from the World Health Organization, other international organizations are talking to the Taliban? Is there any dialogue going on, generally speaking, in terms of and because of the intense discrimination, suppression of women and girls in Afghanistan? To what extent these international organizations are getting involved, trying to persuade the Afghani government, to the Taliban, that is, to ease the oppressions of women in Afghanistan? Do you see that involvement taking place? Is it effective if it's taking place at all?
So UNAMA is there inside the country. UNAMA are providing reports every 3 months from the situation of the country. And then within each report, UNAMA is trying to pay attention to the human rights violence against women and girls. And then unfortunately, while the Taliban killing the previous army people and security people, as I mentioned, the soldiers and the people like previous government employees, and also their prisons. But there is big concern, and also we have some other international organizations, including Human Rights Watch, other organization. UNICEF is working still regarding education. UNESCO is not there a lot, but the big concern is that there is no like specific and the correct and transparent monitoring mechanism. Because of that, people of Afghanistan, unfortunately, they don't have access to justice, specifically women and girls, because even for UNAMA, it's not allowed to directly go to the prisons and see what is going on there. So things that they are saying, this is in a corner of suffer and problems which people of Afghanistan are facing with it. Unfortunately, there is lack of monitoring system. But the thing that I want to say, at the first years, different countries, different governments, they thought that the Taliban changed, as they promised in Doha that they changed, and they want to make a inclusive governance, and then they will be committed to women's rights and human rights. Unfortunately, lots of these big powers, including US, UK, Canada, France, lots of European countries, UK, they try to somehow say, yeah, that Taliban are okay, and they change, and they will try, they might do something. But nowadays, as Afghanistan became the home for different terrorist groups, which is not good for all the region, and it's very dangerous. Nowadays, you see what's happening in Pakistan. Every day we have like terrorist attack, and they are coming from Afghanistan. So lots of countries, they are coming to know that the Taliban haven't changed, and unfortunately they are that terrorist group which they were before. So just they have Afghanistan, and just they have ground under their control, and hopefully, slowly by more advocacy, speaking, talking, and then more advocacy. But we need more time. I know we have a longer way ahead, but we will get to a good conclusion. But nowadays there is lots of issue and problems.
So the Taliban are responsive, for example, to any kind of inducement. Say the United Nations or other organization offer some kind of inducement compensation, saying, well, if you do so, if you allow women to go to school, for example, beyond the 6th grade, we will be able to help you in this way or that way, financially and otherwise. Is this kind of dialogue taking place at all? Are the Taliban receptive to this type of dialogue between these organizations and the government? Are they receptive to consider that is compensation, quote unquote, in order to ease the pressure on women and girls in Afghanistan?
So, as you are aware, Afghanistan, you might be aware, Afghanistan is a signatory of different human rights, different international conventions and treaties, including CEDAW, including Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, CRC, IRC, and these all. But unfortunately, Taliban are not committed to this all. So when a country is signatory of that convention, even the government, if the government change, the country needs to be committed to these conventions. But that's in one way, and from the other way, as you are aware, the international law is not it's not very enforceable, and the Taliban saying, no, this is our internal issues, and you do not try to touch in that. And then because of the unfortunately bitter reality of realism, like a situation which is ongoing in all over the world. So different countries, when it's going to political side, they don't care about the human rights. In wording, they are saying, but while they are trying to interact, they don't think about that. And then so the Taliban, they don't feel any responsibility Although there is some pressure, I'm not going to say there is no pressure, but there's not meaningful pressure upon them.
So, the two organizations, the Right of Persons with Disabilities, as well as the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women. I know that
Yeah.
the Taliban are signatory to these treaties, but they are not adhering to what they have signed up on. And what you're saying, there's no mechanism of enforcement. So is there any effort being made to try to, again, I'm going to go back to my initial question. There are members of this treaty, but there's no mechanism of enforcement. So what's the point? Are they being confronted? You are a member of this treaty, you are not adhering to it. There's obviously inability to enforce it. Is it just being left up like this without any further pressure or consideration?
Till now, it had been like that, but as you are aware, the international, criminal court, they tried to have some judgment against Taliban, but even this international law, as you all know, ethically it is considerable. All countries, they need to consider it since they are signatory of that treatment. But by enforcement, so you cannot force them. It's not something that you can put pressure upon them and say, okay, if you don't do it, I will compensate with this and that. But this is one side, and from the other side, so UN is including of different countries and different like superpowers countries. When they don't will to do anything, when they don't will to put pressure upon Taliban, so we can't say anything, because UN is an organization, and then who created the UN, who is around the UN, that's different countries. It depends on their political will.
But I know obviously the Taliban are now adhering to the extreme form of Sunni Islam. And the leader of Sunni Islam in the Arab world, in the Muslim world, is Saudi Arabia. Has any effort been made to get the Saudis, the Pakistanis to a lesser extent, but the Saudis in particular, being the leader of the Sunni, Muslim Islam, has been any effort to get the Saudis involved in trying? Because, of course, Saudi Arabia has also have significant
Yeah.
restrictions on women, but it's now changing a little by little. Since MBS, came the de facto ruler, so he's been introducing some reform that has been helping women. Now they can drive, they can go without a male companion. Do you know of any effort by the Saudis to try to convince the Taliban to ease the pressure on women, or that is not happening?
So one thing that all countries apart from Russia, they didn't recognize the Taliban government officially, as you're aware.
Yeah.
But rather than that, they tried to have some dialogue with the Taliban. But after that, they couldn't do any. As I mentioned, there is no meaningful pressure. To be honest, our expectation, women and girls in Afghanistan, from Afghanistan, like while we did the tribunal last year, and then we were thinking that maybe the Islamic countries, including Saudi Arabia and other countries, Egypt, these all will come together, get together, and listen to at least some documentation that came from the country. That was not ours, that was the voice of people who are inside the country. We thought that they might do something, but unfortunately there was not there was not bad response. When we are talking with them, they are saying yes, they are showing sympathy, but showing just sympathy is not enough. Action is important for us. Now we are getting to reach to 5th year of Taliban takeover. Our women and girls are under suppression. Men are under suppression. They have to grow their beards. While they are going to schools, to universities, they have to wear the clothes that Taliban asking them to wear. So this is lots of issues and problems, and there is lots of law and regulars, which is even not based on Islam. It's under Taliban side that they are saying this is because this is their restrictive interpretation of Taliban from Islam. So this is the problem which we are facing in Afghanistan. But as I know, as I can see, Afghanistan problem is not going to stay behind the wall of Afghanistan and just inside the border of Afghanistan. Because while a country is like that on its own, the country became the home and a very good shelter for terrorists. So of course the terrorist danger is going all over the world, because nowadays we have technology, we have immigration, and then no one can be safe. Because of that, you are always asking different countries, different Islamic, non-Islamic, Western, Eastern countries that think about the country who's on its own, and no one feel responsible what is happening there. Because one day these issues will come out from Afghanistan. Okay, women and girls in Afghanistan are victims. We have been victims, but we are standing for our rights, and we are standing to say these issues, these terrorism, and this very difficult situation and tough and extremist interpretation of Islam and any religion is not going to stay inside one country.
Yeah, I know that the economic situation in Afghanistan is not great. Obviously, it's bad. And if there's my question really, are you aware of any effort being made appeal to the Saudis? That's what I want to know. Because I have had some conversation with Saudis about these issues a while back. The answer is, of course, we're trying. But do you know if there is really any effort on the part of the Saudis to try to alleviate that kind of pressure? For example, Saudis can offer some compensation, financial compensation. The Taliban can use this money for their economic development. But to your knowledge, to your best knowledge, do you know if the Saudis are getting involved in any way, or is there any opportunity for anyone to appeal to the Saudis to get to the Taliban to change, at least to modify, to alleviate some of the pressure they're putting on women and girls? Or this just doesn't exist at all? Because from my perspective, if anybody can influence the Taliban, given that their policies or approach to women is basically related to how they interpreted the Quran, that's restrictive on the women. And if there is, like I said earlier, because to me, I always look for a solution to the problem. And one of the solutions, if they would listen to anyone, they probably would listen to the Saudis, because Saudis represent Sunni Islam. So do you think if the Saudis are not doing so, is there anybody or anyone trying to appeal to the Saudis to pressure to persuade, induce the Taliban to ease the pressure on women? Because to me, this is a possible avenue to achieve that. Do you agree first to begin with? And if you agree, do you think such efforts should be made?
Yeah, because of that, I said we had a very bigger expectation from like countries like Saudi Arabia or other Islamic countries, Islamic Conference, and these people. They are doing something. For example, sometimes some people going there and saying, okay, it's a delegation talking with the Taliban, and this and that, and they didn't recognize the Taliban de facto government, like officially, as I mentioned. But I think they can do a lot, but unfortunately, the meaningful pressure is still not existing. And we, people of Afghanistan, we reached them, and we are trying to find different platforms to talk to them and speak with them, specifically with Islamic countries and Islamic Conference a delegation, to say this is the situation of Afghanistan and this is Islam. As you are saying, this is against Islam, so why you're not at least trying to do some debate with the Taliban leaders, whoever they are, with the Taliban scientists, Islamic scientists, to say this is Islam as well. And so they are, when things coming to that place, they are keeping quiet and they're saying, okay, we'll do that, but they're not continuing cooperation. It's like till that time. But still, we hope this to happen, and then we are gonna continue our advocacy and our effort, and we are standing firm for that. Because one day all countries will know what is the situation. At least the Islamic countries, they need to have this kind of debates, and they need to have this kind of even economic pressure They can limit the business with the Taliban. They can do a lot, but while it's going to the country's interests and benefits, all country they're like looking for their own benefit, political sides, unfortunately.
So I want to switch a little bit. Your organization have made an appeal to the UK government to issue special visa for women in danger in Afghanistan. To what extent do you have success? And of course, given the fact that the EU, Britain, like most of the EU member states, are struggling with immigration to these countries, to their respective countries. So what is the reaction of the EU when such requests were made to issue special visa for women in danger, specifically those with disabilities in Afghanistan? Have you succeeded? Have you made inroad in your efforts in this regard?
So different organizations somehow got together and then we talked with the European Union. And nowadays some countries, they said, okay, when a woman reach to the country, then we'll give them asylum easily because we know they are in danger. And unfortunately, the UK situation is very like different and difficult. I'm not sure if you follow the news or not. Some 1 or 2 months ago, the UK government they stopped student visa for women and girls of Afghanistan, and they said we are not going to issue any study visa for them as well, which is really heartbroken. Because instead of helping now, they know the women and girls in Afghanistan, they don't have access to education after grade 6. So they are not going to issue even any student visa for women and girls from Afghanistan, but they're issuing student visa for different countries. Afghanistan situation is so complicated. Things that I hope for my country, for Afghanistan as my first country, is that we have kind of peace inside the country, that all people can live their life inside their country and work for their country freedom and for their own well-being and for their bright future.
Like I said earlier, they are generally do not want to have any immigrants coming from most countries. But do you feel that they have resistance specifically against immigrants coming from Afghanistan, say, versus immigrants coming from some other, say, African countries or some Middle Eastern countries? Or is Afghanistan in particular, there's specific resistance to immigration, to immigrants coming from Afghanistan, and and this is why they are refusing basically to issue specific visa for these even women in danger.
Yeah, because after Taliban the takeover, amount of people who are coming in different European countries and UK, they are increased, because there are even people trying to put their life in danger and leave the country. Unfortunately, just recently, I'm not sure if you saw them at the news or not. 14 people of Afghanistan, all of them were very young people. They have been killed. They have been died in. Somewhere at the Iran border. They just wanted to leave the country and go to Iran. And they died because they couldn't find anything to eat and they couldn't find any water to drink. So um, the amount of people who wanted to leave the country and came to these countries, including US, UK, is increased, I know. But why this increased? Because of the tough situation inside the country and because of the Taliban restriction on the people and on women and girls as well. But unfortunately, from the other side, countries are saying we don't need any more immigrant from any countries, including Afghanistan. This all coming together, making the situation more difficult for civilians, for those who just wanted to have a normal life. People of Afghanistan they don't need anything rather than very normal life. It's everyone's right to have access to education, have access to health, can contribute to their country's can have access to their social rights, cultural rights. So this is something that people of Afghanistan want and need it.
So Afghani people who can live and have a permission or a visa to go to a different country, are they free to leave if they choose to leave Afghanistan, or there's a restriction as to who can leave the country and who can't?
So if there is any restriction, there should be upon some like specific people under very specific condition, but I don't think there is very big restriction upon all people. If they have any visa to leave the country, they can do that.
So people are free to leave if they choose to leave.
To leave, yeah.
Yeah.
If they don't have any case with the Taliban, so they can.
Another question I want to ask you: since the Taliban came to power, now going back 7 or 8 years or more, do you see any improvement? That is, initially, of course, they have taken actually the opposite. They were a lot of dealing with women and giving them women more opportunities. There were more openness, and then they reversed that slowly. That's the case? Am I right?
Unfortunately, every day and every month and every weeks, the restriction are became more difficult. Situation became more tough for women and girls. So when the Taliban take the power the first year, girls could go to university. Second year, they stopped women going from the university. And then they stopped even UNAMA and the UN organization, UN agencies, women employees to go to their work. And nowadays even, and then they said, okay, the people who are studying at the medical field, at least they can continue to their education at the Afghanistan education or institution or universities. Then they stopped them as well. So every day the situation became more tough and more difficult. In Herat, one of the western provinces in Afghanistan, nowadays we are hearing Taliban arresting women who are not with their mahram, with a man. If they, when they are going to do some shopping, to do this and that, that's difficult. Parks are closed I mean, for women. Any woman cannot go to the park and enjoy or do some exercise or like. So what can I say? A woman alone cannot go to a restaurant. Everything is closed. They have to just be confined at their home.
Yeah. So one more question before we go to the final question I have. So do you any sense of the Taliban's men, women, generally speaking, is there any movement to rebel against this kind of regime, or people are simply accepting their lot, subordination, and they are not raising their voices because they cannot fight the government? So do you sense there will be any possibility for any movement? I don't want to call it necessarily a revolutionary movement, but a movement to demand more freedom, more opportunities, better education, or there is no such a thing because of the harsh, treatment of the public, and the public basically are afraid to raise their voices. How do you see that? Are
So
they
in
seeing such a
Afghanistan,
movement?
yeah, resistance have been from the first months and first year of Taliban takeover. I'm sure you've seen the videos of women demonstration against the Taliban and protests against the Taliban, which Taliban arrested some of them, and even we have different case of unfortunately sexual harassment and rape and these all, and men as well. But nowadays, year by year, this revolution and this like resistance, this movement became more stronger. And then nowadays you're hearing from Badakhshan, from even southern provinces, which is the main place of the, I mean, Taliban takeover and stand up, which is Kandahar and Helmand. And then in eastern provinces as well, there are some movements there. They have to stand against Taliban. When the cruelty and suppression like became a lot and the people cannot tolerate it, so they have to stand against Taliban. And we don't want any other internal war in Afghanistan, but unfortunately it's not avoidable. So people of Afghanistan from different parts of the country, now they are slowly standing against Taliban, and they have to ask their rights, which is not acceptable for Taliban. Because of that, we have war and insecurity in different provinces of Afghanistan nowadays. Some days ago, in one province, which was Badakhshan, in one district of Badakhshan, Taliban arrested a woman physically on the street, and that caused lots of men and women to demonstrate it and then to do the protest against this. So the Taliban used their guns and things, and some people were killed, some people were injured, and then that's continued. And then people are trying to stand, and then people are trying to ask their rights.
Mm-hmm. Just to your best of knowledge, you received your award when the president, under the Biden administration, and do you feel that the Biden administration were more sympathetic than the current administration was under Trump? And or they are Trump? I mean, knowing, of course, Trump basically, I think he couldn't care less about necessarily human rights issue anywhere. Do you feel any difference? Is there any intervention on the part of the United States as of late last few years?
So I think we all know that the Trump politics attitude is totally different than all presidents of US, maybe, even if it's Republican or Democrat. So of course, between Biden and between Trump was there is some differences, but when we are going to the politics side, specifically the like thinking about countries like Afghanistan, I don't think there is a big difference. Both are the same because the agreement was signed while Trump was the president, and it was acted and came to action while Biden was president.
All right. Finally, I just want to ask you a general question. Suppose you are able to just to enumerate for me, what would you like to see in terms of measures? What can be done? Can you tell me 5, 6 different things that can be done to rectify the situation, even though perhaps many of these things are impossible to implement? But ideally, what would you like to see happen? And who do you think you should take the initiative?
In Afghanistan, you mean?
Yes. Well,
So
who can, from the outside as well, what kind of measures you would like to see taken place now in order to alleviate the plight of women and girls in Afghanistan from within or outside Afghanistan?
I think in Afghanistan, first of all, we need a legitimate governance, which we don't have it. A government who can represent all people of Afghanistan, not one ethnic, one tribe, and one religion and one gender. Just we need people. We need a government who can be legitimate and represent all people of Afghanistan. And based on that legitimate government, we had a good law, 2004 Constitution of Afghanistan and other laws and regulars. We can do some improvement on that. People of Afghanistan are capable, they have capacity to work. We have lots of educated people, just we need to get together, and the initiative and the lead is good to be under the, for the first, it should be under the UN, because UN is responsible as a United Nation. I mean, responsible is responsible still for the under conflict countries like that. And then, but any improvement, any democracy solution, any solution should come from inside the country, from people of Afghanistan, but under the lead of UN. But as soon as we have the legitimate government, a legitimate government very easy can understand this is the law, this is the rights of people, this is women rights, this is human rights, and this is the Islam, this is the convention and treaties. So lots of problems get sorted out. Then slowly we can go to education. We need to do lots of investment to education, starting from kindergarten and going on, because education is the fundamental rights of all citizens in all over the countries, including people of Afghanistan. And if we have education in any country, of course, we can imagine a very bright future for that country.
Well, again, thank you so much. I hope that your quest come to fruition, and there will be a new government, a more representative government in Afghanistan, and one that is going to take equally about the whole, all of the citizens, be that men, women, alike. Thank you so much again for taking the time, and I look forward to having perhaps another occasion to have more conversation with you on this very important subject, specifically when it comes to painful, very painful human rights violation, and specifically against women and girls. Thank you again for taking the time. All the
Thank you
best.
so much for listening to me, and thanks for your time.
It's my pleasure. My pleasure. All the
Thank
best
you.
to you. Bye. Bye now.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode on the issues. You can find this podcast on my SoundCloud page, and stay tuned to my social media accounts for the latest analysis and announcements.